We are not just living in extraordinary times. We are living in times where the pace of change itself is extraordinary. Finance and tax function in every organization sits right at the center of this change. So the real question for tax leaders today is, can you keep up with the pace of this change without increasing risk, without losing control, and more importantly, without constantly adding to your headcount? Some leaders are reflecting on this moment with a thoughtful adoption of technology and AI. Not just to automate work, but to completely reimagine how these functions deliver value. We have one such versatile leader with us today to share insights on how he is looking at transformation opportunity through these dynamic times. I am Manoj Rathi, partner with EY, and I am delighted to be joined by Raju Gupta, VP Corporate Finance for Tata Autocom Group. Welcome Raju, it's great to have you.
Hi Manoj, thanks for having me here.
So Raju, you've been spearheading transformation in finance and tax in your organization. So why don't we start with having your point of view on how do you see technology and AI shaping finance and tax function?
So Manoj, if you typically see, finance has always been looked as a gatekeeper, compliance, reporting, and those aspects. How this entire transformation, AI, the new technology, this will become the baseline for finance to lead from the front, to be a business partner. Going forward, with AI, technology, new age things, I think finance will become a lead indicator for the business. That's how I see the entire technology roadmap changing for the finance.
Our viewers would be interested in knowing, how did you go about transformation in tax function more specifically, in terms of which were the processes that you identified and how did you go about prioritizing them?
First is start small and have some wins, because that help the team to accommodate to it. The very basic aspect is look in terms of the processes which are repetitive, which are say compliance driven, and these processes where most of the information is currently readily available.
Yeah.
Once you see these processes, you will find those repetitive activities which are being done, say for example, extracting data from SAP, putting up into some templates, churning that data, doing some analytics, validating that, and then putting it onto the say filing, for example. Second thing what needs to be done is to look in terms of where my maximum bandwidth of people is getting consumed. Say for example, in any organization, and I can give you example for indirect or direct. So let's take direct taxes. Say for example, TDS as a subject. Okay, it starts from identifying the tax rate, deducting the tax rate, filing the monthly return, even before filing the monthly return, say for example, analyzing how much to be paid, filing the corporate tax, filing the quarterly returns, then annual return, and then it flows till 3CD. So if you see in a life cycle, a resource who is working on this, almost 40 to 50% of the task, what he's doing, and the time which he or she has available, 40 to 50% of the time is going into this. So identify the task which are rule based. See, another important thing is rule based, because technology can work very well if the things are rule based. So these are few of the areas which I think will become a baseline for identification of activities to take it forward for transformation.
Looking at that framework, which processes did you really look at and how did you go about that piece?
The journey is on. Okay, so we looked at various solutions which were available, and in particularly there are few EY solutions which we are currently using. We looked in terms of tax return, corporate tax return filing. We looked in terms of 26 AS reconciliation, because the formats which are available currently from the government portal are not that detailed which can reconcile back to the books. We looked in terms of say areas in exam where classifications were a major challenge, because at any given point in time we are dealing with thousands of material classification, and a small error in identifying the right classification can lead to a tax shortfall. Similarly, the FTAs, so a lot of imports etc. help through this. Analysis is one thing which, see, in a typical situation, a department which is handling this will not be able to assimilate and analyze the information which is there, and these tools really help them. So one part of it is that, like, doing the work. Second part of it is analyzing that work. And these tools have helped to look in both the aspects.
That's good variety, if I may look at it that way. You've with the base framework that you looked at, you and the point that you made earlier, that identify some quick wins, so that you are able to generate that confidence internally. Starting with a corporate tax return, 26As, and then looking at TDS on the payable side, and the fact that you are looking at HSN and FTA. So I think it's a well-rounded approach that you're looking at in terms of how this entire function adds value.
The idea is to address each aspect of the tax as a function. So it can go to, say, advanced tax, it can go to dealing with transfer pricing, it can go with even some part of litigations, drafting litigations, at least the base drafting litigation. So the idea is to attack each of those areas, identify what can be done, and implement it.
I now want to pivot, Raju, to a technology that I follow very closely, which is AI. There's also a popular debate out there about AI that not many AI use cases have moved from POCs to production. And therefore, I think our viewers would be really interested to have your point of view on how you look at AI when it comes to tax as a broader function.
Let me first solve the confusion regarding POC to production. I think if you refer back, as I said earlier, if you identify the right task, the right use case, moving it from POC to production will not be a challenge, because you know exactly what needs to be done, what steps are there. So say, for example, if a tax task or any finance task has to be integrated back to, say, SAP, or integrated with the production system, then in that case the very simple first step is to do it first offline, in the sense you test the use case with the given technology without integrating.
Then look at integrating it.
Then look, take a step approach. Because once you take a step approach, what happens is that you come to know exactly what is blocking, where there is a challenge. If you go directly to the integration, it becomes really difficult to come back. See, what you also need to know, that what platform, what infrastructure, what type of technology we are using upfront, so that the service provider as well as the organization which is adopting it, they both are on the same page. Because most of the challenges happen when the service provider and the technology which the company is using are not in sync, and then you have to create a bridges to overcome that. So I think these things, if done at the start, help the cause much easier.
You're saying more time spent in identifying the right partner that you want to go with, who brings a good blend of a technology or the domain expertise.
For example, EY AI Tax Hub, I think it's a great tool which has been coming up. I saw some of the test runs and all. In those, how the AI is being used to accommodate the Indian tax versions. I think that is important, because if you have to file a appeal, if you have to file a litigation paper, or you have to file a paper book, then in those cases you have to think very like what has happened in the past in the tax arena. Otherwise, what will happen, the output, if the AI is not trained properly to think through, then the output what you will get, it will not be really a usable output. And then you have to go to a human intervention. See, but actually, the real world going forward will be AI with human intervention.
What I'm hearing is, look at using AI like a co-pilot,
Yeah.
not an autopilot.
Yeah.
Have the right human in the loop
Yeah.
to ensure that you are extracting the most value from AI, and at the same time, human being does what he's supposed to do.
Yeah.
I think that's a great lens to apply.
When we implemented, say for example, tax return and so on and so forth.
Digi-corporate
we-
exporting,
yeah. So at that point in time, we were not really very sure whether the output is right or not.
Sure.
Because it was using AI, it was extracting information, and it was filing the returns for us. The risk mitigation approach, I will say, was that take the output, see it from the lens as if it has been done manually, and see if there are certain leakages or there are certain gaps. And then if there are, fix it either in the software or fix it in the way it has been applied, and then run it. So we took that approach,
Yeah.
though it took time initially, but by the time we are, say, on nth return, that become automatic.
Yeah, you are saying being pragmatic about what technology can do for you, and at the same time having the right ring fencing layer to ensure that you're well balanced in your leverage on technology, and do what you're supposed to do, and ensure that there is maximum control and validation that is still retained by a human being. Taking that transformation discussion forward, for any transformation journey to be successful, I think a lot of things have to go right. From alignment of people, having leadership sponsorship, having the right partner to look at your technology and the domain expertise. In my view, what I've seen is one of the most critical parameters is what is it that you are pegging as a measure of success for transformation.
I think we'll spend some time on redefining the definition of ROI. So ROI starts with, say for example, risk management. What is how you are covering up your risk? Are you by implementing a project, by implementing a AI solution, by implementing a digital solution, are you covering yourself? Do you have a defense mechanism in place? That is very, very important. Second is, say for example, how much efficiency you are bringing into the process.
Yeah.
That is also ROI. Third, how much scalability you can bring with that. That is also ROI. And last but not the least, obviously the savings or the cost aspect of it. And I will also bring people aspect into it, as to how you are developing the capability set or a skill set of the existing people to take up larger and wider roles. Whether it can be within the function, outside the function, or how they are using the time saved on the projects into more and better work. So that's how I see the matrix.
I loved how you look to redefine the concept of ROI beyond the conventional ways of this is the monetary investment in bringing technology, and how we need to look at far more qualitative parameters, including risk management. And I love your last point on people. And speaking of people, how did you go about, or what was your assessment on or team's reaction when you looked at bringing in technology in different elements of tax function, whether it was conventional technology or now AI?
People receptiveness to the idea was positive. Okay, there was no pushback, I'll say, from the people side, because at the end of the day, people also see as to how I'm contributing to the overall cause, or how I'm contributing to the organizational value. And they very well understood that if they have to contribute to the value to the organization, doing a repetitive task will never get into that. So when the idea was projected to them, they were very receptive. Yes, we can do that. And then see it from the other perspective. A typical chartered accountant or a professional who is working in any of the finance area, what does he sees? He sees yes, well, I am getting into the so-called transformation mode.
Yeah.
In my area, I am trying to improve what I was doing myself. Tomorrow I will get that thing done from a solution, from a tool, from a AI, from a digital perspective. So it is giving that kick to the resources that, well, my KRA has that, I will move my, say, 30% of my area through a tool or through a digital transformation. So that is how I look at from the people perspective.
Those are great points, Raju. As we wrap up today's conversation, it is clear that the pace of change in tax is not just extraordinary, it's redefining how we look at value, risk, and leadership. From today's conversation, I think one point that is clear is transformation is as much about mindset as it is about technology. Thank you very much, Raju, for sharing your practical insights and wisdom. Your insights around embedding technology in everything you do, having the human element at the center of the entire transformation exercise, I think our viewers are going to really relate to those.
Thank you for having me here.
To our listeners, if you like this conversation, if this was helpful, please share it with your connects and contacts, and stay tuned for more conversations on innovation, leadership, and future of work. Thank you once again for joining us. Until next time, keep challenging the status quo and reimagining what's possible. Thank you.